Greetings and salutations. Today we will be covering the case of the Virginia Bunnyman. The Bunnyman is a mix of urban legend and true story, originating from incidents occurring throughout Fairfax County, Virginia in 1970. However, incidents supposedly spread to Washington, D.C., reaching as far as areas within Maryland. The story pertains to a man garbed in a rabbit costume who then proceeds to attack people with an axe or a hatchet. The majority of these happen within the area of the Cloychester Overpass. The Cloychester Overpass is a Southern Railway overpass spanning Cloychester Road near Clifton, Virginia. Sometimes it is colloquially referred to as the Bunnyman Bridge. As legend has it, in 1904, an asylum not far from the bridge had its residents removed. This was due to Clifton residents desiring not to have mental patients so near their homes. Through a series of events, the asylum was shut down, necessitating the patients to be transferred by bus to Lorton Prison during a rather difficult part of their journey across the now infamous Bunnyman Bridge. The group of convicts would escape when their bus crashed. While most were found dead or recovered later on, two of the patients, one of which was named Douglas J. Griffin, were able to escape. However, shortly after the crash, the body of one of the convicts was found hanging strung up from the Cloychester Overpass, and according to some accounts, the body had a note which read, Bunnyman attached to it. The search for the second convict would continue for an undisclosed length of time until a number of half-eaten rabbits were said to have been found hanging up in the area. Once this killer was found and cornered, he was supposedly struck by a passing train before he could be apprehended. Years later, during a particularly dark Halloween night, a group of kids was loitering by the bridge. Then they reported seeing some sort of bright light or orb. Then, in a flash, all of them had been strung up like the bunnies. Each and every one of them had been gutted, as they had been left hanging from the bridge. Following this, as legend goes, if you go to Bunnyman Bridge on Halloween night at midnight, you'll end up just like those kids, strung up. Moving forward, it is important to note that there has never been an asylum in the area. However, the story has managed to stick. Looking further into things, in the 1970s, there were some reports about a crazed man in a white outfit, which alternatively had been described as a rabbit costume. This individual would harass and threaten people for trespassing on his property. No one has ever been convicted for the attacks, however, but it is likely that this is a true source, the origin of the Bunnyman. Regardless of its origins, the tale of the Bunnyman persists to this day, going so far as claiming that if one were to pass through the tunnel on midnight during Halloween, the hatchet-bearing killer would appear and murder the trespasser and hang them from the bridge. The Bunnyman actually made an appearance in print not too long ago. Even more recently, he made quite the splash on the internet, and much like the internet is prone to, it changed things and evolved the story to new heights. However, the most well-known iteration was given life by Timothy C. Forbes and posted on a website called Castle of Spirits sometime in 1999. That version of the story is the one listed above. Facts such as Lorton Prison not coming to existence until 1910, along with there being no Douglas J. Griffin or any records of him anywhere near Fairfax County, this version of the story to be more fictitious than fact. Said story gained even further renown after being featured on a program called Scariest Places on Earth, broadcast on the Fox Family Channel on a segment called Terror on Bunnyman's Bridge in 2001. Regardless of the fictional tale's spectacular crimes, there is an air of reality surrounding these events. The question of is the Bunnyman real would still remain. At first, the fantastical tale of the Bunnyman may seem more of a flight of fancy or some urban legend that just came about through mystery. However, there are certain facts about the legend that had originated in truth. The true origins for the tale are tied to Halloween 1970. The Washington Post of October that year cited a news article. Man in bunny suit sought in Fairfax. Fairfax County Police said yesterday that they are looking for a man who likes to wear a white bunny rabbit costume and throw hatchet through car windows. The incident is tied to Air Force Academy cadet Robert Bennett, who told police shortly after midnight last Sunday he and his fiancée were sitting in a car on 5400 block of Guiana Road when a man dressed in a white suit with long bunny ears ran from the nearby bushes and shouted, "You are on private property, and I have your tag numbers." The bunny man proceeded to throw a wooden-handled hatchet through the right front car window, or so the first-year cadet told police. As soon as he threw the hatchet, the rabbit skipped off into the night. Fortunately enough, Bennett and his fiancée had not been injured. Police say that they have the hatchet. However, no further evidence or clues could be found. Sources say Bennett was visiting his uncle, who lived just across the street from the spot where the man had attacked them. The cadet was in the area to attend the Air Force Navy football game. The second appearance was recorded 2 weeks later as the rabbit reappears. Regarding how a man wearing a furry rabbit suit with 2 long ears appeared again on Guyana Road, Fairfax County. Police reported the man was wielding and chopping away at the roof support for a new house. The report is as follows. Less than 2 weeks ago, a man wearing what was described as a rabbit suit accused 2 persons in a parked car of trespassing and heaved a hatchet through a closed car window. The car was at 5400 Guyana Road. They were not hurt. Thursday night's rabbit was wearing a suit described as gray, black, and white. Was spotted a block away from 5307 Guyana Road. Paul Phillips, a private security guard for a construction company, said he saw the rabbit standing in front of a new porch of an unoccupied house. He states, "I started talking to him, Phillips, and when he started chopping, he spoke. 'All you people trespass around here,' Phillips said the rabbit told him, as he whacked 8 gashes into the pole, and said, 'If you don't get out of here, I'm gonna bust you on the head.'" Phillips would go on to state that he walked back to his car to get his handgun, but the rabbit, who had been carrying his long-handed axe, ran into the woods. The security guard said the man was about 5 feet 8 inches and an estimated 160 pounds. He also appeared to be in his early 20s. The 2 documented appearances of the bunny-suited figure are believed to be sightings of the same individual in the Fairfax community. There is also the story of 17-year-old G. Taylor to take note of, who stated, "I think it was last year or maybe before that. I came home from school. I was listening to the news. I had just gotten in, and there had been a man and a woman sitting in a car. It could have been teenagers, but they were just parked and all. And all of a sudden, they looked up, and there was a bunny. You know, this giant bunny just ran out of the woods, you know, from behind the trees and all. And he ran in front of the car. And he had a hatchet. And he threw it through the car and just turned around and walked back away. Then they were just shocked. They just sat there and watched. Then an old man came out of his house and warned them to get off his property. You know, they tried to explain everything, but he just wouldn't listen. And then they took it to the police afterwards. And the police, you know, went back and all and asked him if he had seen anything, and nobody had seen it. Until a couple days later, then a lot of people were saying that they had seen the bunny man. And then, after that, the police tried to investigate, but they couldn't get anything. And they found these places that sell costumes and all. And they found that it hadn't been but 3 people that had, bought costumes. Then they, you know, long put theirs away and brought them back and all. And it wasn't them. And nobody ever found out about the bunny man. It just went on for a couple weeks, and it died out. Now, the information gathered from Miss Taylor is important for a myriad of reasons. One of these reasons is the fact that she pointed out the news, specifically television news, was how she found out about this incident. The second point of import is that she pointed out that a hatchet was thrown through a window. It was specifically the window of a car where teenagers had been in. Next is that she gave a time frame for when the event occurred within a couple of weeks of the event itself. This makes it clear that the October 22 news story was the origin of what she had told. Moreover, although the story had changed considerably in 22 years, many of the 53 other versions were within the same range and had the elements of the incident that had occurred in October 1970. Newspaper accounts and oral reports are rather revealing for this. However, neither can be counted to be 100% accurate 100% of the time. Enough, while the Fairfax County Police Department has no official records on the October 18th assault of Robert Bennett and his fiancée, they do have the investigation report relating to the October 29th vandalism incident. This could be due to the FCPD not requiring to relay any information relating to misdemeanors or offenses. However, one intrepid individual was able to be granted access to their report. The report goes as follows. At 10:30 p.m. on October 29th, 1970, 6 officers responded to 5307 Guyana Road for a subject dressed as a rabbit with an axe. Officers found no rabbit, and the case was turned over to investigator W.L. Johnson of the Criminal Investigation Bureau. Johnson began by visiting the construction site where the officers had gone to. This was the Kings Park West subdivision. During his quest, he would find no rabbit, but he did receive a call shortly after his visit from an individual who worked at Kings Park West. The caller claimed to have just received a telephone call from an individual who was identifying himself as the Axeman. The Axeman would allegedly say, "Mr. Redacted, you have been messing up my property by dumping tree stumps, limbs, and brush, and other things on the property." The Axeman would then go on to say, "You can make everything right by meeting me tonight and talking about the situation." The representative from Kings Park West stated that the caller sounded like he was a white man in his late teens or early 20s. Police set up a stakeout on the area, but the Axeman never materialized. It wouldn't be until November 4th that investigator Johnson would receive a call from a resident of the area who informed him that her son claimed to know the identity of the Bunnyman. She stated that some of the neighborhood children who have seen or been seen with the Bunnyman described him as an older teenager. Johnson interviewed her son, 8 years old at the time, and eventually learned that the child had not actually met the Bunnyman, but rather had only heard of the Bunnyman at school from the rest of the children who were talking to him and about him. Interviews with other neighborhood children had similar results. On March 14, 1971, Johnson wrote the following summary. After a very extensive investigation into this and all other cases of the same nature, it is still unsubstantiated as to whether or not there was really a white rabbit. The only people who have seen the so-called rabbit have been children of rather young ages and the complainant in the case. Upon interviewing everyone in the case that may have been involved or have had any knowledge of incidents concerning a white rabbit, that has been no significant information gathered or uncovered that would lead to the identity of the person or persons that were posing as the white rabbit. This case is to be marked as inactive. The question still remains, what was the identity of the Bunnyman and what was he attempting to do? Sadly, we'll probably never actually find out his identity. However, there are a few things we could learn from the situation as it stands. On October 18th, the Bunnyman accused Robert Bennett of trespassing. On October 29th, the Bunnyman told the security guard, Paul Phillips, "You all trespass around here." And on November 4th, the Bunnyman accused the hereto unnamed representative of Kings Park West subdivision of dumping debris on his property. If all three incidents are concerning the same individual, then it can be assumed that the Bunnyman was likely perturbed by the development in the area. This rapid development was extensive in the 1970s. It must be noted, though, that until the Second World War, Fairfax County was little more than a rural farming community. However, the buildup of federal employment in the region and intensive residential development became the new normal of the area of Arlington and the Fairfax counties. The 1950s had seen tract housing in Virginia being built up in Springfield, McLean, Annandale, and in Fairfax. However, the modest development of the early 1960s eventually gave rise to a significantly larger town-sized projects, such as Reston and Burke Center. This leads us to Kings Park West, which was a subdivision of over 1,500 homes, and one of several of such developments in the area preceding the incident. Many of the people living in Fairfax County in the early 1960s and 70s were rather displeased to see the pastures and woods they had long lived with give way to towns, cities, and communities. They had essentially been forced to watch helplessly as the communities they had grown up with had their identity stripped from them. Such behavior in theory could lead to such incidents as strange as taking to wearing a bunny costume and throwing hatchets and waving around an axe. However, this mystery, rather than being solved, has become more of an urban legend than anything else. If you have remained with me until the end, I thank you, and I do hope you stay tuned for more content.